joke, no one brings it, and that's okay, because we love them all the same. Front row, crack a beer, lend your ear, it's that time for the scrap again.
I get asked all the time, what is a vigilante? What does it mean to be a vigilante? And so to explain that, I'm just going to kind of explain where the vigilantes came from. When I started the group, I honestly thought there was going to be like 10 or 20 people who really like the scrap that would want to be a part of the behind the scenes, helping pick out the guests and make the questions. And I never dreamed that the vigilantes would grow into what it has grown into. Over 700 like-minded souls. If you're a vigilante, you are never alone. We have members from across the country. We have members from across the globe. And it's just amazing what it's become. If you're in there, then you get to be in the Discord. And the Discord is where we do all of our discussions. And people go live and they talk and they ask questions. And we have a channel for bitching and moaning, for presenting classes. It's amazing the fellowship that is involved in being a vigilante. And it's not just that, there's so many other benefits. You get access to the vigilante only swag shop. You get the 15% discount on all merch from Firehouse Vigilance. You get the after parties. You get the vigilante get-togethers when we're all at the same place and we get together and we raise a glass and do a toast and have the vigilante creed. You get the vigilante coin when you hit your 1-year anniversary with your number. The fireaways, the forums, the archives, all of the quarterly projects that are coming that you get to be a part of and get to be behind the scenes on. It's grown into something bigger than I ever imagined. And I want people to know about it. I want people to be a part of it. If you're not a vigilante, why not? I don't know how big it could be. I don't know. I mean, the vigilantes are where the work is at. They're the ones who are getting stuff done. And it's phenomenal to be a part of it. I wanted to get on here and explain where it started, how it came to be, and ask you, if you're not a vigilante, why not? Go to patreon.com/thevigilantes. That's where you sign up. It is $5 a month. I mean, you can't even get a cup of coffee for that anymore. $5 a month and you get to be a part of this unbelievable group. Go to patreon.com, sign up, become a vigilante, and I will see you on the Discord.
We bitch. We all bitch.
Intended or unintended, which is a huge part.
Creating our own toxicity.
Beat down, browbeat, whatever the reason. I'm not saying anybody's selling it that way.
I think the majority of them are spoiled, rotten little brats. It's never been with a strong enough officer for that officer to put their foot right square up their ass and say, "Not today, honey."
Corley Moore, Firehouse Vigilance Weekly Scrap number 336. My guest tonight is James Nisbet. He has been in the fire service since 2009, second generation, currently working for Clackamas Fire as a lieutenant. The last 2 years, he's been on Engine 15 in OC Midtown, where he rode the back step prior to getting promoted. He is an engine ops enthusiast and into all things water. Doesn't like height or power tools, so the engine is his home. He's an instructor with the Brothers in Battle. Chief Rob Fisher's personal assistant and apprentice, the co-founder and host of the Pipeman podcast, Department Engine Ops Cadre lead instructor for the newly formed Engine Ops Cadre, the Fountain Hose Company, co-founder of Oregon Fire Nuggets, co-founder of the Trails End Fire Conference in Oregon, father, husband, colorblind, and most importantly, an only child. Welcome, my brother, James Nisbet, to the Scrap for episode number 336.
Thanks, Corey. I appreciate that. I think you hit everything.
Everything. It's one of the more colorful biographies I've had in a while, with a little humor thrown in.
Yeah.
Anything I missed? Anything you would like to add?
No, I think you covered pretty much everything. Like I started writing everything down. I'm like, dang, I kind of had my hands in a lot of stuff. Yeah, I mean, was fortunate enough to get a Fool's chapter off the ground in Oregon and then pass the torch to my close friend, Mitch Raines. We started that back in 2017, I think,
Right on.
around
Right
that time.
on. Still rocking and rolling?
They're crushing it. They're absolutely crushing it. I moved out of the area that's Backstep Fools, so
Okay.
I don't do stuff with them anymore, just due to the geography. So now I'm in like First Whip Fools territory, I guess, but I feel like they're all kind of one nowadays.
Right. Right. Especially if they're somewhat close to each other, they usually form those bonds, hopefully. All right, I'm going
Yeah,
to talk about
yeah.
sponsors. I'm going to read some of the chat coming at you. And there's been quite a bit of hype. Of course, being Rob Fisher's personal assistant and apprentice when you're Rob F. and Fisher's personal assistant, that has something to do with it. There has been quite a bit about needing to see a chore coat or a job coat. So I'm glad to see that you delivered, because Kyle Ramaga said he was going to break up with you if
We
there
can't have
was
that.
right. Absolutely not. And then John Kwan actually said, "Oh my God, he's wearing his coat so hot right now." So that might be the only comment I read all night, because that's a great comment. John Velez said, "My boy got his short coat on. Laugh out loud. I love it." John Velez says, "I'm on the ammo right now, and I'm about to go put mine on." So there you go. No, absolutely. You kind of catch the vibe of the chat. Okay, I'm going to do the sponsors so we can get to the scrap. Sponsors pay the bills. FDIC International is the ultimate gathering for the fire and rescue service. Join thousands of your peers April 20th through the 25th this year at the Indiana Convention Center for an experience that will ignite your passion. Learn from world-class instructors, explore cutting-edge products and services from leading companies, and connect with the best in the business. Don't just attend, be a part of the movement that drives our industry forward. FDIC 2026. I'd be excited to see you there, because I am teaching on Thursday morning, the morning slot, so please show up. That's my own personal part I added. When it comes to building your perfect attack package, you can't just slap any nozzle on any hose and hope for the best. That's a recipe for failure. At Snap-Tight Hose, they are not just trying to sell you hose. They are there to make sure you get the right hose paired with the right nozzle for your crew and conditions. Their team of experienced reps knows the stuff inside and out, and they're ready to help. No ego, no judgment, because knowledge is power. And at Snap-Tight Hose, they bring both. Visit snaptighthose.com to connect with a rep and start building your ideal hose and nozzle package today. FirestationFurniture.com provide a complete line of quality furniture for your firehouse. Firefighter owned and operated, they understand the strain that firefighters put on furniture and offer furniture that's built to last. Visit www.firestationfurniture.com for more information. And lastly, I want to shout out to the 50th State Fools, since we were talking about Fools specifically. I'm heading out to Hawaii to present with the 50th State Fools and teach the 9Ls on January 21st. And in honor of Chief Todd, who they just lost recently, the 50th State Fools are offering free admission to the class in remembrance of Chief Todd's lifelong service, leadership, and dedication to others. You can register for that class using the promo code THESCRAP, one word, and get free admission in honor of Chief Todd. So if you're in the area, use the code, and I will see you there. But boom, that's done. We get to move to talking to James. James, my man, you say you're a self-professed engine enthusiast and a lover of all things water. Did I remember the quote right?
Yep. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
talk
absolutely.
static beds and getting beyond the pre-connect. What's your argument for this novel concept of static beds? Like what?
Right. Yeah. So there's kind of a couple of things, I think, especially in the American Fire Service, right, that we've been looking in the rear view mirror, because we went through this phase, I feel like 90s, early 2000s, you saw 3D fog firefighting come in, lots of tech and gadgets were kind of what was driving the fire service, right? And especially in Oregon, the salesman kind of drove like what you had on your rig. Like it wasn't necessarily what how it equated to your tactics or your buildings or flow or anything like that. Like it was salesman driven, and it was what's newest, latest, greatest. So now we've kind of the pendulum swung the other way, right? We started looking at our smoothbore nozzles. Let's simplify our extinguishment device down to the most simple thing possible that has the least amount of variables of failure, right? On or off. I can check it in the morning. I know it's going to work.
Right.
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 So now with that, we have started to look at, well, what's the least amount of variables on a stretch? What's a load that can accomplish everything, short, long, in between? What is a load that can do that with the least amount of thinking, the least amount of flips and twists, and oh, you got to do a break every third bite and do a twist here and whatever, all of that shit. So now we're looking at static beds, right? You have a bed full of whatever, 600 feet is what my organization carries. To the north of us, Portland, they do 5. To Alton Valley, to the west of us, they do 5. I mean, you choose the number. It doesn't matter. You can now accomplish any stretch that you are looking at. Short, 150 feet, no problem. 450, no problem. And now what we've done with that system is we have taken out the essentially the questioning of how we're going to tackle this problem, right? If you're an engine that traditionally has maybe multiple various lengths, we'll see where I used to work, we had 200 off the 200-foot crosslays.
Sure.
We had a 300-foot off the rear. Single person expected to stretch this 300-foot pre-connect. So you start to ask, what's the metric for our decision for when we know that 200-foot crosslay is not going to work versus the 300,
Sure.
right? So
Right.
now we've added a whole other layer of decision making upon the entire crew. Well, shoot, I don't know, like, yeah, let's do 300. Let's do 300. And what's that based off of? Then it becomes emotionally based, right? Kind of feeling you're looking through the Rolodex because you've only lived in this small box of function of 200 feet and 300 feet. Or if you're a rig that has, 350, 250, 2, now you have multiple options
Sure.
to choose. So now it's like, okay, we stretch short with the 250. Now how do we mitigate that? Do we then pull the 300? Do we throw an additional length on the panel side, which would be my recommendation if you do stretch short? Hopefully you're doing it at the panel side where the driver operator can control that problem. But now we have these whole multifaceted layers of decision making when we have much more important decisions to make that should be reflexive. So what the static bed allows us to do, if it is set up correctly, and whatever system you decide for your static bed, for us, we have our 50-foot shoulder bundle and then a 50-foot kind of stack that the nozzlemen will put their arm through. So they're always traveling with 100 feet. And
Okay.
that stays with them until they get to where they need to go. There's no flaking. There's no kind of like estimation of, oh, I need to start getting rid of hose here or there for the nozzlemen. They go until they get to where they need to go within that realm of 600 feet. So now you've increased your variance in your function to 600 feet, right? So now you essentially, like, you don't have to think in a roundabout way. You don't have to think. You just put your hose on your body, you walk to the objective, and you're done, right?
And does it
Uh,
require more from the pump operator to know and understand the brake and hook and things like it's not as brain dead as pulling the pre-connect handle and charging the line and you know.
yes, but we have, at least for us, for our organization, we have tried to make it as simple and as brain dead as possible, right? So again, it's a system. So um, let's say the nozzle, let's say it's a 250-foot stretch, right? Our driver just has to look at the amount of rows remaining in the bed, and each row represents 50 feet. So
Okay.
if you see 5 or 4 rows out, the nozzleman has that 50 on the top, but then they've traveled with 4 rows. That we're looking at 250, or it's 550, or what it doesn't matter. So we just look at it. They have everything pre-scripted on a pump sheet that says if you have 250 out, this is your discharge pressure. If you have 300 out, this is your discharge pressure. So again, we have taken that thinking out of it.
Right.
for all intents and purposes, right? We're still thinking. Um, so it allows us to accomplish all of the problems of short, medium, and long, right? Without having to decide, okay, another common when we're out there teaching beyond the pre-connect, another common thing we see is, all right, yeah, we have a apartment lay load or whatever, and it
Sure.
involves somebody stretching some amount of length of 2.5
A
to a
leader,
gated
right?
Y, and yep, exactly, and they're breaking down into hose packs. Okay, so then the question becomes, how much does your driver is that built in a system so that your driver can look at that and they know exactly how much is out? And more often than not, the answer is like, oh no, we're relying on them to count couplings. Well, shit, man, like it takes like one squirrel to cross the road, and I don't even know where we are anymore for me. So like one tap of the shoulder of your driver, hey bro, where's your Halligan bar? Where's this? Oh shit. And you look back, you don't know how many couplings are out, right?
Sure, sure.
Um, so now there's that variance. Now it becomes, okay, we now have to unstrap said bundle. We now have to make that connection. We are now adding a variable intermediate of the stretch with a valve. Have we trained well enough to tie open the side? If we're using gated Ys, have we trained enough to tie open said valve and secure that valve? And all the meanwhile, we have the unsecured side, right? Does that get tied shut? What's the risk of, again, as we start putting water into that system and shocking the line and opening the line, and now that whole thing bounces, boom, pulls on the Y, we lose water, right?
Right.
Are we disciplined enough? Are you dealing with mutual aid? Mutual aid company comes up, hey, we need a second line in this apartment complex. Hey, let's just go off the Y, right? Are they on the same page as us? So now we've added variables into our system that maybe we didn't think about from the get-go. So what the static bed does is it takes all of that away, all of it. What we've done now is all we have to worry about, we get to our stretch, we get to our point where we call break and charge, the driver disconnects and connects. That is the only make and break involved with the system, right?
Right,
And
right. No, exactly.
that's in the most simple fashion, but there's also a lot of positive byproducts of the system as well. What the static bed allows us to do, it allows us to slow down, for one, especially as the nozzleman, right? We have to start having their two data points of speed and accuracy start to converge at a point where it makes sense, right? Is a crosslay or a pre-connected hand line going to be faster than a static bed in some cases? 100%. And that's not what we're disputing. But what does allow us to do, it allows us to slow down a little bit and be more accurate and intentional with our stretch, so that we know that we're not coming up short. It allows the nozzleman, especially younger firefighters in our organization right now. We've had a lot of new faces come into where we work. This forces them to slow down and look at the building, right? Um, so it breeds a little bit of firemanship just by the load itself. It also now allows us to pull past the building. Before, when we were in the cross lane pre-connect heavy only days, the staple of a good spot was if you lined up your pre-connect
Your
tray,
crosslay, yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right.
How much fucking pain in the ass is that, right? You put everything on your shoulder. Now we're thinking too hard on how do we get rid of travel hose because we're walking back and forth because we can't bring all 200 feet forward of the stretch. But if we stretch off the rear, well, that 200-foot pre-connect, maybe all we needed was 150, right? So again, it shaves off steps and allows us to spot better. It allows us to make room for the truck. If you're an organization that's operating with truck companies, we're able to get more sides of the building, get better situational awareness, and maybe it also allows us to park on a water supply. If the hydrant's 200 feet down from the address, I may just drive that extra little bit if it's not going to impede the stretch too much, right? So it gives us options, and
And
it
just
just
let the bulk bed eat up that instead.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay, I
So
see what
like
you're saying. Yeah, instead of laying off
yeah,
for
so,
water supply. Okay. No, I was tracking. I was just
yeah,
making
so
sure I was
like it's
tracking.
yeah, yeah. If we can go, yeah, if there's just that little farther that we need to go, then let's do it, right? And now we're not. We always want to spot for the stretch, right? If there's a way we can spot to make things easier, we should do that. But now spotting for the stretch doesn't become as of a big deal. We're not having to scratch our head, right? Are we coming in on a multi alarm in a cul-de-sac, right? Now we have to stretch forward of the engine, and it's like, well, shoot, how many? If we only have pre-connects, how are we putting that whole system together? Are
Right.
we taking off trunk line? Are we connecting two crosslay? Like now there's so much variance in what to expect. If we start adding variance into our plays and our operations, now we don't know how to fix it, right? If
Right.
there's a problem.
No, no, it's a
So
great argument, a great presentation on the strengths of it. I like Smoke Eater 18. Are you ready for your first question from the audience?
yeah, yeah, for
I'm
sure.
not sure who Smoke Eater is exactly, but he says, "How do I triple lay from a bulk bed?" And I'm so I'm
You
sure.
don't.
So that's the facetious, the sarcasm I'm hoping from Smoke
You,
Eater.
you go, yeah, you go in the bathroom stall and say three Hail Marys and never do it again.
There you go. So no, it's a great argument for the boat bed. And do you see, as you've traveled, as you spoke, have you seen an acceptance of this, or do you see is the fire service swinging towards it the same way that it's swung towards the simplicity of the smoothbore, or
Yeah,
what's your take on the barometer?
I think so. Yeah, and I think like the you have to when you're bringing this to your organization. I think a lot of people look at this thing and they say, well, we don't have five-story center hall buildings,
Right, we're
right?
not an urban
Well,
department with yeah,
yeah. Well, yeah, that's totally valid. But this also shines in the short realm of things. And I think if you once you show people like, look, my nozzle firefighter just has to go to the front door. We could park 10 feet away from the front door and they just go there and the driver breaks the connection and plugs it in. Like then it's done. And I think that demonstration, I think that's a lot of the time where we start to see the aha
the
moment.
light bulbs, yeah,
The hard part is one, figuring out a system that makes sense, that allows you to do all of those things that we talked about, which allows you to monitor how much line you have coming out of your bed, right? Because counting couplings, not not realistic. Wouldn't recommend it.
not
Uh,
feasible.
no. So what does that system look like? And maybe what is going to be the one that's the least amount of growing pain? And what are you left with in your beds, right? Like if you want to bring this system, a static bed system in your department, is it going to cause a major shifting of everything else or not? Just due to the sheer geography that load could take up. So like
Sure.
the organization to the south of me where I used to work, they took the load from Palo Alto, which is 500 feet static bed, but it's all set up more of in a Minuteman orientation. They're primarily a Minuteman department, so the training swing is a little bit less aggressive, where ours, is a flat load, is more based on a flat load. So overall, I do see a lot more places starting to ask the question, and investigate that a little bit more. And once you put it together and see the versatility and the ability, um, we see this all the time with us when they go through their engine company training. Our new guys, we we try as best we can to not sell them a bias, because the last day of their engine ops week is all scenario based. So we tell them, all right, you can stretch whatever line you want to stretch. You can do the pre-connect because we still have crosslays. You can stretch that, or you can stretch the static bed. It's up to you for your
Okay.
scenario. Every time we have to tell them, like, hey man, you have to stretch at least one pre-connect because you are going to be tested for it. because like they go to the rear of the bed every time because it's easy. You don't have
Just
to think. There's way less variables. You can go straight to the objective. You're getting where you need to go faster. And I think a lot more organizations are starting to figure that out. Um, and I think I've obviously never been through uh, New York City's academy, but
sure.
you look at the rear of their beds, the amount of people they hire and the amount of time that they have them at the Rock. I can't think of a simpler load to show somebody um, when you have that many people and that finite amount of time to train them. You say, hey, Jimmy, yeah, you're gonna take this 50-foot nozzle section. You're gonna see a guy with like a white shield on his helmet. I just need you to walk to wherever he goes, and he's gonna tell you at some point to put this down. Can you make sure the nozzle and the 50-foot coupling gets to where they're somewhat close to each other? Where he says, "Yeah, sure, boss." All right, that's hose training's done, right? Obviously, there's tons more
Sure.
intricacies.
Absolutely. Nuance and technique and everything to master.
Yes, but like, okay, how long did that take versus, okay, man, you're gonna put this on your shoulder. You're gonna grab this with your left hand, but you gotta make sure that your left hand goes for the top loop, then the bottom, but you grasp that bottom loop like lightly, and it'll get tight at some point. You let that go. And then, but make sure you don't do this because otherwise it'll get up on your bottle. And if you turn too much that way, then you'll get tripped up, but it'll be fine. Right. So we've simplified everything with this whole system. And it's back to the grassroots is what it is. It
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
does
I don't-
good.
No, I was going to ask because one thing you said that had me intrigued was you said it causes you to slow down,
Yes.
but are you talking about a delay or are you talking about just more of calculated movement? Because you know, speed is time is the enemy, speed is our weapon. I believe that with all my
Yes.
heart and soul in the emergency scene. So I want to dig in on the when you say slow down, what you mean by that?
So it allows us to be more purposeful, right? So is there a is there a could there be a sacrifice in time delay of seconds, right? In the perfect, imagine your perfect cross lay scenario, right? Like we have 50 feet from the
Yeah,
from the
50-foot
engine.
setback, and it's the
It,
perfect
it, it is
no debris,
manicure.
nothing in the way. Right,
Yeah, there's a guy out front with the light baton saying, "Come this
right
way."
here.
Right? Um, is the crosslay going to be faster? Probably,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Right? Now, when you get there, let's say you're according for it. Boom, 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 done, water. How much did you miss because you're head down, sprinting because you were able to, right? Because everything is second nature, because there's no obstructions in the stretch, how much information did you miss because you weren't looking at the building? Now you are trying to play catch up during your mask up, during your call for water, right? Did you miss the handprint on the window? Did you miss the change in fire conditions? Did you miss that window was intact? Now that window has failed. Our fire's growing. That's our vent point, right? So what that allows us to do is we have to be eyes up, heads up now coming off the rear and be more deliberate. We know for a fact now, every time we place that line, it is exactly where we think it is and where we say it is. So now it's kind of we're depositing that time to get back later on, right? So there is some risk with the head down, football sprint that we're able to do with the pre-connect that can cause us potentially some problems, right? If we're just right off and now it's like, oh shit, I'm here. Where am I? Right?
No, no, absolutely. And again, I'm tracking and I like it, and I want to dig in because a couple things I want to dig in on before because we got a lot to talk about besides
Yes.
just boat beds. But we're gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna springboard, and there's questions coming in. But
Yeah.
is like you said, just go to the back, you grab the hose, you take that nozzle and that coupling, you drop it where you want to be. But if it's like I don't know, you say you got 600 feet, how many people are feeding or are shucking and helping that happen? Or what kind of staffing is required at a certain point?
Right. Yeah. So just like you're running into the same problem at that point, regardless of pre-connect versus not, right? So
Sure. No,
we kind of
absolutely.
broke
It's
up
not a versus. I was just, it was one from
yes.
earlier when you were talking, but go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, how we determine the amount of bodies we will need on the stretch, right? So we kind of break it up into 4 categories for our organization, more or less. So we have simple and long, right? So that means that hose can come off the tailboard. There's no obstructions. Think about like you back up to a football field and you want to stretch to the other goalpost and there is nothing in the way, right? That's a long, simple stretch. I don't need
Simple and
any
long.
bodies on the
Right.
stretch, right? There's no points of friction. There's no turns. Couplings aren't going to get caught up on anything. That's simple and long.
You're just gonna be
Uh,
leaning forward a little heavier at the end than you were at the beginning.
correct.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
So now we have, which does require bodies, which does now really start to play into having some more firemanship and starting to estimate the stretch. Now, when we talk about estimating the stretch with the static bed, we don't need to estimate to make sure that we necessarily have enough. The estimation comes in the static bed where we have to estimate to make sure that we don't bring too much inside the building. So that's where you do run into problems. If we don't slow down and estimate, we don't know where to deposit our hose to get around friction points. So that brings us into the next kind of stretch category, which is long and complex. So long and complex is over 200 feet with multiple pinch points. So the way that our system works is each body on the stretch puts their arm through a row. So each body on the stretch is it will be moving with 50 feet.
50. I was gonna say, okay, so we're right back to that. Each bite is 50 feet.
Yep. So as we're kind of, that's where we do have to slow down a little bit, right? But those are times where we should, regardless of your hose
Well,
load.
when it's long and complex, it's gonna be, I mean,
Yeah,
hey, it's outside, but you're already at the outside of the realm of a pre-connect anyway, because once you get 200 feet, you're done.
exactly. So for us, where there's a center hall building in our truck company on the hill from us, their first due, the mill on Maple. It's a 5-story center hall building. You look at that, right? Okay, we stretched that when we had 4 people on our engine. We were able to get that stretch done in about 2 minutes. We got to the 5th floor mid span of the building, but we had to stop for a second and say, okay, we need a length in front of the apartment for the actual fire apartment. We're going to need 2 lengths of travel or so once we get to the fire floor, and then 1 length per floor, right? But it does require your driver to enter the building with a length. So for us, the driver owns from tailboard to first friction point, which may be inside the building, which might be a little bit different for a lot of organizations.
Sure,
But
sure.
there's just something that we can't get around that, right? And I
And
think
that go ahead.
that's impingent on company officers to look at a building and say we're going to need help, right? Like I was listening to Mickey Farrell was interviewing one of his buddies who's an engine guy, and they were talking about how the first stretch was 12 lengths, and we're supposed to stretch a second line of equal or more. I'm not doing a damn thing until a second company comes. Right? Like, so there's some points of that where we just have to stop and realize, like, it doesn't matter what load we have. This is going to be a stretch that takes bodies
Right.
to deposit the right amount of hose, the right amount of friction points.
Which swings
Now,
me to Kyle
yeah,
Romagus, because he has a question that's right in line with what I was asking. He said most people resist the use of the bulk bed due to staffing on their rigs. How is
yes,
this load used for long stretch effectively, especially with a 3-man engine? Because that's his world.
right, yeah, and that's my world as well too.
Okay.
So with the flat load, right? So if we are, let's say it is us, and we're going to get this longer complex stretch going. Let's say it's 400 feet, right? Um, your nozzle is traveling with 100. Now I've got to somehow come up with 100 on my own, and then the driver's got to make up some of that difference, right? So with our load, we absolutely can travel with 100 if we need to. We can take that whole flat stack and flip it, which again, manipulating hose and stuff like that is not my favorite when we start doing flips and twists and everything like that. That's not we're starting to get outside of the realm of simplicity, but I'm
But you're
still
talking
willing to
about long and complex, and the word is
yeah,
it's built into the stretch. It is complex, so there's going to
yeah,
be moving parts.
exactly. So I can travel with 100 on my shoulder. Now the driver, he can put an arm load through that next 50, and let's say that next 50 can pay out with just out of the bed unassisted, right? So now we are moving 400 feet of hose in relatively short order, right?
No, yeah,
And it may be a point where you know for how the system works, it kind of is we're caterpillaring through our path of travel to our objective, and we're depositing from um, tailboard side of the stretch to nozzle versus like a pre-connect, right? We're letting hose come off our shoulder sometimes
right.
as the nozzle. This is kind of backwards where we're bumping forward that nozzle. So that nozzle we just have to stay disciplined and stay intact with the stretch.
Hmm.
So um, I think three-person engine company, first line off the bat, like 400 feet is kind of about that point of like true effectiveness where, we're going to be able to get it done. Is it going to be a little slow? For sure.
Right.
Right. It's not
Max,
not going to be
it's
slow no matter
it's
how
taking you
much
to
we
your
do.
limit of your resources, without a doubt.
Yeah. But because we've adopted that static bed and we've now taken ownership that we're willing to encounter this problem in this type of configuration, what we've now taken away from it is okay. Um, let's say we don't have static beds, right? Engine one shows up and I'm the next arriving engine. Okay, I know that building he's going to, the fire's on the fourth floor. That's a 400-foot stretch. Is he going to stretch trunk line and Y off? Or is he going to take apart all of his pre-connects
And start patching them
and do
together.
that?
Yeah.
Or is he going to coupling drop? Or is he going to rope drop? Right. So now again, if you don't have a system that can encounter all this stuff that doesn't have like a bunch of make and break attached to it. Now if I'm second arriving engine at that mill on Maple, I know exactly what they're doing and I know exactly how to support them and they know how to support us, right? So if that second, let's say it is our three-person engine company, if that second arriving engine shows up and they say, "Hey, what do you need?" I'm going to tell them, "Hey, engine 9, I need you guys on the stretch." Cool. Driver, he's the gatekeeper of the stretch at that point. We're already off and going. Someone comes up to driver, says, "Hey, Aaron, what's the stretch?" He's going to say, "Hey, it's 8 lengths." Right? Okay,
Okay.
cool. So now that second in company knows exactly what to grab and they bring that inside the building. And the driver is kind of the one who protects the stretch from being overstretched because that is what happens with the static bed. And that's what we see in our classes all the time is people bring too much
Too
hose
much.
because it's kind of that same phenomena that we have with like new driver operators, right? Like, well, they say my discharge pressure is this, but this looks like a big fire, and I don't want to be that guy who like underpumps. I'm just giving a little bit more. We just have to be understand and trust ourselves. If we have a plan and a system for how we estimate the stretch, then the nozzle is never going to stretch short. You can't. As long as you don't get rid of hose in your travel, you can't stretch short if you're in that 600-foot variance of your function, right? If you're met with an objective that's 800 feet away, then I'd love to see
Right.
it, but
No, that's especially without. I love Josh Hawk's question coming at you here because you mentioned coupling drops and rope stretches. Do you default to split stretches such as coupling drops or rope stretches? And does your company stretch daily?
yes. So we absolutely have rope drops and coupling drops, and kind of our again our system and our metric, our Rolodex, if you will, for when we are doing one or the other. For coupling drop, for us, we have found the most amount of net gain in time is going to be what we call a deck access apartment building or a hotel, right? Like you have all of the doors open on the deck, right? And you might have one stairwell on one end of the building and a stairwell on the other. So what that allows us to do in that setting is we just throw that coupling over the railing. We now do not have to traverse the stairs. Now we've had some time trials comparing what's it to a if we stretch the stairs on like a exterior stairwell apartment complex where they're kind of scissoring back and forth
Sure.
versus coupling dropping that. We found that coupling drop in that scenario actually takes more time versus just stretching the stairs.
Okay.
So
Is there a breakover point on number of stairs, or is that pretty relegated by there's not that much that gets that tall?
not necessarily as number of stairs or flights because I think there's some variance there. I think it's just at that point now what we're running into, we're sending stuff over, we're making that additional connection, but then the tricky part becomes we're limited on the amount of hose that we can disperse on the stairs that's actually usable and working length. So the deck access apartment building, we're just kind of have settled on like this is your green light coupling drop situation because we can set everything out, lay everything out, and we're buying back time because we're not having stairwells that are so far away from our entry point versus other scenarios. Um, so that's kind of like our I guess our metric of function for that. Now, when we're doing a rope drop is definitely something I would be recommending if you're 3 floors or above and you're in a center hallway building or you arrive and you get these kind of general reports, right? Which for our company we've talked about like, hey, if we go to the Red Lion Hotel or whatever or whatever it's called. Anyway, it's a hotel on our waterfront. And it's 3 stories, technically 4 because the ground is it's raised. But if we get like general reports of just, hey, there's smoke on the 3rd floor, right? Well, we don't know where we're stretching to, for one. We can split and take a rope bag, can, irons, hook, all that stuff, investigate. Okay, we do have a working fire. The door is shut. We have positive door control. Let's throw a rope over and we'll hoist up the amount that we need versus making the stretch. So the rope drop is definitely something I would recommend for those higher points of elevation because again, there's a certain point where how much now do I need to bring inside the building to make sure I do have enough to reach as I send that coupling over, right?
Right, right,
Do I travel with 150, 100? Well, if I send over this, how much more do I have to hoist up? So I feel like a rope drop is a little bit more of a sure thing once we start going up. Now, in those going back to those apartment style buildings with the exterior stairwells that kind of scissor back and forth. Now, if we were stretching a second line, absolutely. I want as few lines in that stairwell as possible because that just gets confusing, right? Hey, we need more hose. And you're like, fuck, which one? I don't know.
right. No doubt about it. Spaghetti.
So, um, so that reduces that amount of variability there. And in that case, yeah, coupling and drop that all day long. And then do we stretch every day? We absolutely try to. There are some days, I'll be honest, we don't get it done.
Right, right,
We have stuff that gets in the way, but we are actively stretching as much as possible. And again, just trying to reduce those amounts of variables that we have at some of those complexes. Like they had a little tiny fire at a complex that is a popular spot for us to go and train. And again, it allows us to just show up, know the what could be unknowns for some people. We can show up and now we know, right?
right,
We know
right.
exactly that, okay, it's apartment 26. Like I know exactly how many lengths that is. I've done this with a new guy like 10 times. We've been, no big deal. Um, and you start stretching your first two, like I feel like that's a pretty awesome advantage of opportunity that we have, that ability, right? Like you get to literally pre-game the ball field before the game.
Right.
No other sport like allows you to do that. Like, hey, we're gonna go try everything out here. It's like that's a we have now a unfair tactical advantage over the fire. We might as well take it.
No, I do. Christopher Finnan, when we're still talking about the bulk beds, but thoughts on when buying new hose, transitioning from 50-foot section to 75-foot
Mhm.
sections to gain that extra length for your static loads or pre-connects with less sections. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, you totally could. Again, it depends on that system, right? And like how you set up your static bed. So for us, the hose bed depth is a specific number that allows each row. It's broken up. Each bite is 3, so we have 3 bites per row, and that is exactly 50 feet. So now, if you do 75-foot lengths, you would have to figure out what is your hose bed depth. Could you have some hose kind of hanging out, which is like what Portland does
Right.
to the north of us. We started that way, and I believe at that time that they were more focused on the aesthetics versus functionality. So they said bring the hose more flush with the bed. Now we're starting to creep back out a little bit more. Um, so that would be the only thing. You know, again, just from like a pricing and just like functionality standpoint, right? Like how I've never bought 75-foot lengths. Just how easy, like if you call up a key, do they readily have 75-foot lengths available if you blow a section? That stuff I don't know. You
Right,
might want
right. The
to.
logistics of replacement and things like because it's not a standard size at all.
No, there's a smaller organization to the south of us, outside of the capital that they run 75-foot lengths, to my knowledge. So I as far as
And
functionality goes,
the 50-foot sections are just easier to do math with also. I mean, I'm gonna be
they
honest,
are.
like, it's not like
Yeah.
75 's super tough, but it's not as easy as 50.
No, no. So I think if guys are used to it and you've been in it and you guys
Sure.
know how to like, you can cerebrally like look at it and you know what that means and you know what you can do with it. Sure, like I wouldn't say change up your stuff, but again, 75 is kind of odd, and I don't know if the net gain from that is worth
If the juice
completely
is worth the squeeze, plain and simply. Yeah.
yeah, redeveloping all of your
The
stuff
pump charts, the
to
link
now.
chart, yeah. No,
Yeah,
absolutely. No, I it's a good it's something to think about. It's a good thought exercise. I don't know if again, is the juice worth the squeeze? I like
right.
this one from SMS Tech 30, Telk, SMS Telk 30. When you're sitting down on a new engine committee, what are some big ticket items you would say are must-have items?
Oh, man. So, biggest thing is how do we get the hose beds as low and functional as possible,
Mm,
right? And we have to remember what is the engine company's purpose, right? Once we start mixing and matching and adding all of these other things, if you want to build a rescue pumper, then do a rescue pumper. But if you want to build a true engine, how low can we get the hose beds, right? Ideally, perfect world, can we have the first due engine and the first due truck operate in front of the building and do everything they need to do, right?
okay.
That's the thing. So can we stretch enough lines to cover a let's say we had fire on floor 1 that extended to 2, so we need 2 lines. Can that engine get 2 lines off expediently? Can we get an exposure line off, and can we get a backup line? Can all of that come from one engine, right? Our hose beds have to be low and functional to allow for speed and accuracy and just for ease of use, right? So how
Right.
much line can we carry? Can we keep the wheelbase as short as possible? Then the other component there is, you're gonna have to look at tank size based on what is your operation, right? Are you a single engine department, or do you have lots of help coming? There are when they tell you like you can't do this with 1,000-gallon tank, like you absolutely can't. You have to push for it. Um, you can get slammed hose beds and have a 750 tank or 1,000-gallon tank. So that's what I would focus on. I'm really not in the know about like, oh, this is your best drivetrain or anything like that. 1,500 gallon a minute pump. You know, obviously any tank that's over 500 gallons and low hose beds that
Low
allows
hose beds
everything to
being
flow.
the main one you would that's where you're planting your flag to die on that hill.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I will die. Like the rest of the thing can look like just a crazy hunk of shit. I don't care. But if the bed's nice and we can work off of that really well, then that's all I care about.
Beautiful. Lou on Ladder 72 checking in from Pensacola Beach. Rob F. and Fisher says, question: what are your thoughts on specking engines depending on the area they serve, i.e., or e.g., rural, suburban, urban, like different setups for them? Or is it better for a department to have a standard spec for training and operations?
Yeah, so that's funny. I was so we, especially our organization, we are unique in the sense where we cover urban, suburban, rural, right? So like you can go from station one who's running, 4,000 calls a year or whatever, to engine 11 that might run like 10, 20 calls a month. I mean, this is just numbers off my head. I mean,
Sure.
so
Very slow station, very busy station.
right, and the actual geographical environment is drastically different, right? First alarm shows up with engine one, 2 to 5 minutes, like, and you got people up your butt. Engine 11, three-person engine company, they're gonna be waiting a while. So I had the same conversation with our fleet manager guy, and it's like, man, it would be cool if we could have a rural spec and an urban spec, but I get the downside of now if you get to that point where you want to start rotating in um, engines that maybe have more hours, and you want to start rotating them out, right? And that's something we do is we'll rotate rigs around so that the hours and usage aren't so focused in one spot.
Sure, sure.
Or you have one, okay, for example, our guys at engine 10 and engine 11, they are in a reserve engine because their rigs are getting refurb. So now if they're used to this spec and now that spec comes in, they're like, oh boy. So
Sounds like
I
you're
would
more of a
say
fan of standardization.
I think standardization that kind of meets you, because you can meet the needs of having a larger tank size, have the low hose beds, and still accomplish everything you need to accomplish in the rural, right? Like like at that point, like what else do we need? Do we want hydraulic tools on your engine? That's like on the last thing of the list, right? Um, we're primarily there for fire. That's why we exist. So that needs to so everything, as long as we do everything from that lens and work outward, you can have a spec that will meet those needs of both. I think you start having two completely different specs of equipment. As cool as I think it would be, realistically, I don't think it's manageable. I think again, you're opening up the Pandora's box of variables to come in and kind of bite you in the butt.
No, the logistics of it, just like you said, just from, well, rotation of rigs is one thing. Rotation of crews is another thing. You even talk about the personnel moving around as staffing it dictates. So I think there's a good case for standardization. I think that's the reason why. In an ideal world, we'd have great staffing that doesn't move around and great rigs spec perfectly for their neighborhoods, but that's not the world we live in or get to operate
Yeah.
in. So we've talked a lot about the systems based engine operations.
Yeah.
The which we've covered quite a bit of that. The supporting the search is the engine. Let's talk a little about supporting search as the engine.
Yeah. So we're the fire services, we're at this period where we have to have a really objective understanding of the first line mission and what does that mean, right? Our goal, our whole primary existence as the engine company is to support the search and facilitate the search. It is not extinguishment. Extinguishment is a byproduct of the placement of our first line. The first line is meant for confinement, isolation, control. If we get extinguishment, that's great. That's awesome. We have to kind of shift our lens, right? And we've, again, going back to everything we've been told, the blitz fires and all this stuff, and how much water we're getting out of hand lines now is all great. But we now have to start shifting the lens to how do I support the search? And what that looks like is, one, the first line has to enter the building. We have to get on plane, which means the same level
Same
as the
level,
fire.
same floor. Yeah.
Yep. and we have to locate, isolate, and confine. And the way we do that, it's the same objectives as a truck company or any company entering the building for search without water. Locate, isolate, confine, communicate, right? But now the tools in which we do so, that's what changes for the engine company. And the way we do that is with the hand line, right? And we have to understand that that is where we win and that's how we support the search. Now, as I'm confining that fire room, what am I getting? I'm getting cooling. I'm hopefully getting some gas lift, and hopefully I'm redirecting gases if there's a vent opposite of that handline
Yes.
stream.
Some fresh air entrainment, some gas contraction.
Yep, absolutely. So again, the fact that we're still having this argument, before we logged on, Justin just shared a little snippet just about this. We have fire showing on the second floor and reports of people trapped. There should be no variance to our response to that problem as the first arriving engine. The first line goes up, gets on plane with that fire, gets onto the fire floor, isolate, confine, hopefully then extinguishes. Once if you're a single company department, get the nozzle to at least that point where they're confining and they're at that point where we can draw a line in the sand and now our heels can go and search those rooms adjacent and start targeted searches of those positive reports for victims. Absolutely. Because if we forego extinguishment, there's tons of variables now that we don't know, right? Size
Oh
of
yeah,
victim.
yeah, no, without a doubt.
What's our
Uh,
egress? So we have to stay disciplined to what our mission is. And in any again, too, the other crazy thing is we're still there's still people out there who are trying to justify taking an exterior position of the building.
no, yeah, that was not the
Luckily,
question. I had a question for you, which I wanted to pose, which was in your algorithm, and this is kind of one of those things Justin talks about all the time when he starts his discussions. He posts a picture, start his discussions, and I love it. But in your algorithm, at what point is there a point in your algorithm to where you do switch over to purely rescue mode and you're foregoing the line? Is it strictly like if they're hanging out windows?
so even at that point, right? We're a three-person company. The line there is a line getting pulled in some way, shape, or fashion.
Okay.
Now, is it not the fireman? Yeah. Could it be the driver? For sure, right? So when we look at um, victim hanging out of a window who is in immediate peril. So we're talking conditions. If we do not remove them, we have enough education and training and knowledge to know that if they are in that environment for any longer, it is going to be very bad for them, right? That is the time where, yes, we will take a multi-pronged approach,
Okay.
and maybe our line will shift to that singular room to protect that grab if stuff is starting to get really spicy. But still, a line is getting on the ground, it is getting placed. And that's really where that's where that lives for me. Um,
No, and I'm not trying to paint these scenarios of
sure.
I'm not trying to push you into a corner. It's just in your
No.
algorithm, where does that needle sit?
Y-
And I love to
Yeah,
ask that.
yeah, and that's exactly where it is. We have somebody show if somebody's showing up from a window and they are in that position of it is now it's like go time, it's now or never, then yeah, that is when we're going to do that. And I think that's the right call.
Okay.
Um now
Short of that though, that we're getting on plane, we're getting water, we're going to start that surface cooling, cast contraction, fresh air entrainment,
yeah,
and making it better for everybody involved, the search teams, the victims, and us.
absolutely,
Right on.
absolutely. Because you're like I said, you're asking for potentially a slew of problems that are going to be a big negative return on investment should we sidestep that. And if you're an organization and you do sidestep it, whatever happens in those moments. I love what Jeff Shoup always says. He says firefighting circumstantial, right? So we can't come up with a scenario for every little thing that you're going to encounter out there. But should you sidestep extinguishment for whatever reason, and it's not being picked up by your company in any fashion, that has to be communicated. It has to be,
Oh yeah.
right?
No, no, without a doubt. I'm seeing here. Would you touch? Yeah. And I think you're touching on it right now. Paul Tice said, "Would you touch on the importance of staying disciplined as the nozzleman? with people hanging out the windows and even finding a victim while making a push.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, that's our primary goal, right? We know if we are searching or we're occupying the building and the fire has not been located, isolated, confined, or extinguished, we're in borrowed time and we're kind of, we're in Sketchville. So, um, if we see people hanging out of windows or whatever, or they're, maybe they're not in that dire situation, right? Which you'll see all the time, apartment complex, right? Fire could be several units down. This lady's saying, "Come get me," but you look and you're like, "Okay, I can." The light's still on in your apartment, not a big deal. Um, Staying disciplined to that is imperative, and that's one thing too. With the fire services, we look at some of these incidents and we don't always want to call out that like a good or bad nozzleman that makes or breaks the fire ground. We look at reports and say, oh well, they didn't have good accountability or they missed a 360 or whatever. It's like, no, Paul sucked that day, so the incident fell apart because we didn't extinguish the fire and things grew exponentially and conditions changed exponentially. So we have to stay disciplined. So the other question is as far as encountering a victim on the nozzle, right? If we encounter a victim on the nozzle, our base level plan and what our organization has trained for and had success with is nozzleman identifies the victim, 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 victim. Nothing changes there. That's our jargon. The nozzleman will now move past that victim, hopefully flowing. That heel will be feeding that nozzleman 5 to 10 feet of hose. They will do a quick victim assessment. Can they get them out on their own? Yes or no. If they can, perfect world. Nozzleman sets up shop, rains pain down the way into the fire room. Maybe they extinguish the fire room. Again, there's variables there for
Sure.
each particular situation. But then the heel bumps up, starts that victim removal, ideally passes them off to another crew so they can just hop on the line. If they can't pass them off to another crew, now they are removed and they're with that victim until somebody else comes and relieves them. And that's again where the nozzleman has to be trained to be an independent operator.
Right.
Like we cannot function in a fire service where the officer is a targeting computer and says, move your stream up, down, left. Don't breathe until I say you can breathe, right? We have to have functional decision makers on the fire ground for all of this stuff um, to come into the perfect mold and give us success, right? We have to have individual decision makers for these moments. We also have to give people a system in which that allows them to do so, which is the whole thing of the engine company system is we have a Rolodex for everything you encounter. Um, and that's what our whole class is about. That's how we train our people. It's based off of our buildings, our environment, our staffing. Should you encounter this, this is exactly how you're supposed to respond.
Got it.
Versus, we show up, hey, I think we're gonna pull the 250.
Figure it out
Maybe
when
do
you get
this or
there.
that. Right.
Right.
No, and we want to take as we want to hire individual decision makers to make difference on the fire ground, but we also want to reduce the amount of low hanging fruit decisions they have to make, such as should I open the line here or not? Do I need to wait for the boss to tell me to go or not? What do I need to do here? Right? All of that stuff gets smashed out in training. Right? If you see this, the line should be open. Right? What is the we get asked, how do I know I need to flow and move? Well, if you have black smoke 50% of the space with velocity at doorknob level, that's a pretty good indicator that you're going to be flowing and moving inside of that building, right?
Oh yeah.
If we have high temperatures, you're not comfortable, maybe you're not experienced enough, I don't know, open the line. You're empowered to do so. That's what we want from you.
Nice.
If you have multiple windows of fire, right? This is indicative of a multi-room fire. You're going to be flowing and moving. If we're going to be moving into the basement, and when I say basement, I'm talking a basement that doesn't allow us to be on plane. It's more of the cellar style where we're descending into the pits of hell. But that is when we are going to be flowing and moving and keeping the line open, right? If we encounter a victim on the nozzle, we are going to be flowing and moving and keeping the line open. If we encounter that last little bit of landing strip and we've identified the fire room, that is where we locate, isolate, and confine, put a cap on it, put the genie back in the bottle, and extinguish. That's when we want you to be flowing and moving, right? So we give our people
Yeah.
these objective metrics system so that they can respond inside of the building, even down to our flow positions. We don't teach or lock people into one flow position. We do hip grip, lock off, and double knee so that your body can now encounter and maneuver every turn or geographical hazard inside of the building and be able to respond to it, right? So common thing with the hip grip, flowing movement, the hip grip, we can make a right hand turn relatively easy, right?
You got the
But
stabilization, but
we
as soon
have
as you go the other direction, yeah, you could go for a
Yep.
ride real
Yeah,
quick.
we have a little bit of the Zoolander thing going on, right? So now what do we have to do? Well, now it's natural for us to transition left-hand turn into a lock off, get squared up with the turn, and now we can either return to our hip grip flow and move, or maybe it's a quick double knee into the fire room. So we don't lock them into one position, give them a Rolodex to say, this is when, this is how, and this is how I need you to respond. So it's all based off of a system.
Mm.
And that
Do you think
system,
do
once
you
that's
think
shown up, that
the
becomes cohesive.
no, no, you're good. I was gonna say, do you think giving them the 3 different methods, does that lengthen the amount of training needed as opposed to saying this is the way we do it?
Um, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it does. We get those guys for in an academy setting. We get them for a week, and it is 40 hours, and then we have a couple more days that are sprinkled out through their academy where they kind of get one-on-one instruction with guys from uh, um our engine specific cadre.
Gotcha.
We can accomplish everything that we just talked about in a day, which is what our whole program is with the winning hand line through the Fountain Hose Company. So that is essentially what we've done is we've taken our 4-day program and condensed it down into one day. But you have to give context to when you're explaining any of this stuff. And again, and you have to drive home that this is a system. It is not just well, you can kind of do this if you want, or some guys like this, like that, but whatever. No, you have to understand that it's not just like a grab bag of just stuff, right? Where you're
Right.
like, but throw this at the problem and hopefully it fixes, right? No, it's a metric, right? Do this, then this. If this doesn't work, here's how we pivot, right? So
Oh,
all builds on itself, and having that system, especially on the engine company side, it now becomes cohesive with our search companies and our truck companies, right? Our truck companies know what we do inside of the building. And what that allows us to do is that cuts down on fireground communication. They don't have to ask if we're ready for event because they rolled up, they saw the same fire we did, and they know that we're in there. Uh,
oh, losing you? All right. Well, I'm waiting to see if he comes back. We're holding. We are holding. I'll be entertaining for a minute because I was getting ready to ask about coordinated ventilation and saying they don't need to communicate on a vent. And, that's always an interesting when people hear that, especially like on the scrap and they without context. I don't want people running out there and start popping holes without talking to their engine crews that are inside. Waiting. Is he back? Oh, same here. I'll give him a few minutes, but I mean, I was about to pivot to book or books that you think firefighters should be reading. And so I was about to spout that off. I just wanted to get through my one question. So I will move to if he gets back, we'll hit the 5 questions and things like that. But I will move and talk about the things I wanted to talk about tonight, which is the first thing new thing I'm doing in 2026. It's called the Featured Fire Department. Okay, now listen, I'm going to do one every week. I'm going to try to do one every week. I may not get any interest in it, but what it is, if your fire department, where you work, volunteer, combination, full time, staffed, whatever you work at, maybe you just went out and spec'd an engine and you discovered something while specking that engine that you think would be valuable for other people to know. Maybe you just did a 2-year study on hose and nozzles in your area and you discovered you put together a data set that you would love to share with other people? He is back. He is back. Welcome back. I'll talk about the featured fire department after I talk to James a little more. So
Yeah.
welcome back. Welcome back.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were
Sorry, I
at-
had to take a quick
You were
break.
at cutting down on fireground communication. You're good because I was about to. You're good and solid because I don't want to tempt fate too much. I'll pivot to what book or books do you think firefighters should be reading?
Oof. That's a tough one. So,
Does not have to be firefighter related. It can be anything you want, but go ahead.
yeah, any book. I think so. Non-fire service related, I think, will open up to just make you understand us as a discourse community a little bit better. Is the book Tribe by Sebastian Junger.
Younger, yeah. I love the book. In fact, his whole thing on the Blitz and the Battle of Britain, I absolutely love that whole take. So phenomenal out the gate. Go ahead.
Or we,
You can do what you if that's it. I'm happy with that. I was just saying, which
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't want to cut you off.
oh yeah. So are we moving on to the questions now, or are we
Yeah,
back
we're
to
getting yeah. No, I'm pivoting away from. You've covered a lot of stuff, and with the crash, I want to make sure we wrap up succinctly.
okay?
So, yeah, you covered all the questions. I think pretty good. We were on. You can wrap up the point on
Yes.
roof
Yeah.
crews cuts down on fireground communication. What? Are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
All right.
Okay. So what I was getting at with that,
This is the
what
fun
I
of a
was
live show. Everybody enjoy.
so what I was getting at with that is because of we have a systems-based approach to the engine, and now it allows those additional companies to come in and they know exactly what to expect of us, right? So, with the oh my god, did it phase
No,
out again?
you're good. Go ahead.
So
Not on our end.
okay, with that, with our search crew, right? They know exactly where our line is going to be going, and they know the default of our operation, which allows them to search maybe more aggressively, right?
Okay.
Than maybe other search companies in different departments, right? They know that our goal and our capability and our function is to find that fire room, open water immediately, and start confining and isolating that fire right away. And they know our jargon. We have a
Right.
jargon,
Right.
right?
Absolutely. And what I want to be clear on, because I was talking about this when you froze up, is you're talking about unspoken coordination, but coordination nonetheless.
Yes,
Not just
absolutely.
everybody does what they want based on what they're expecting the other people to do. It's actually still coordinated.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So,
Okay.
um, for example, we just wrapped up some battalion level training focusing on just kind of hand line movement, right? And that was the whole department went through that training. Our truck companies, our heavy rescue companies, all shifts, all people went through it. So now, in this month, we're doing vent training. As much as like
Okay.
I'm probably not gonna have a great time, but um, what that allows us to do is allows us to know what is your function expectation, right?
Right.
So for our search crews, seeing what we do, how we move the hand line, our jargon, they now know if the nozzleman calls fire room and they're inside of the building and they hear the nozzleman call fire room, we have made it. They can now get really loose and really aggressive with their search, right? Because we have water on the fire, they're through the threshold. They also know that the nozzleman is going to search the fire room and our heels are going to search rooms adjacent. As soon as it gets called out, boom, line stops moving. It's where it needs to go. Everybody starts searching. So that creates an expectation and a relationship. They know that when we have delivered and when we haven't delivered,
Nice.
right?
No, this is beautiful. And the expectation of when you get that room, everybody's got their jobs to do and start because rescue is the objective. Right?
Absolutely.
I love it. I absolutely love it. No, it's beautiful. You've covered a gamut. You've covered the gamut. Uh, and I feel like I understand the systems, like the purpose of systems-based actions as the engine company. I really do feel like I have a better grasp of it now than when I posted the blurb and I said, I'm not sure what this means, but it's provocative.
Yeah.
So no, I really did enjoy the conversation about it. Shameless plug for Trails in Fire Conference. Let's hear about this thing.
Yeah. So Trails and Fire Conference is in our area in Oregon in May. It is going to be 1 day lecture. 2 days of hands-on. I'm going to be lecturing. Ben Schultz is going to be lecturing.
Ooh, nice.
Dennis Laguerre and John Spera are going to be day one of lecture.
Sexy. And I
2
want to
days.
say, my time is the enemy, speed is the weapon. That is a Ben Schultz quote. I didn't give it credit earlier, but absolutely. So go ahead.
Yes. So love Ben. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be awesome. 2 days of hands-on training. We're gonna have the newly formed Fountain Hose Company cadre. We're gonna be teaching our class the winning hand line. Brothers in Battle is gonna be doing DIY engine.
Nice.
And our truck crew is going to be doing topside vent. That class is sold out. BIB's class has a couple more spots. We have spots in our class. Eric Wheaton is going to be doing can confidence. That is
Nice.
already sold out.
Okay. What's the dates again?
May, stand by. I have to look it up. I think it's the 6th. 1 second.
Right on.
6th through the 8th.
May
That's
6th
first
through the
part,
8th.
right?
No, beautiful, beautiful. I just want to make sure we got the dates out there for everybody.
Yeah. So it's through Fire Nuggets. It's our first kind of opportunity to bring a really more organized conference back into the area since 2020 and firemanship kind of moved out of the area.
Right.
So now we're trying to get stuff going again.
That is the Trails and Fire Conference.
Yes.
Beautiful. I love it. Okay. So we did books. We did that. We did the Trails and Fire Conference. We're now to the 5 questions for firefighters. These are arbitrary. These are questions with no right or wrong answer, just your opinions. And the points are arbitrary, assigned by me with the help of the live audience. So, James Nisbet, are you ready for your 5 questions for firefighters?
Yes.
Here we go. Number 1, you can be anything in the world except being a firefighter. What would you choose to be?
I think I'd still be Rob Fisher's full-time personal assistant.
I would go ahead.
Or I really, really, really wanted to be a special forces guy and be an Army Ranger, but I'm colorblind.
Oh, really? Yeah. You did mention that in the bio. I do remember that now. So you can't do it. So you're stuck with being Rob effing Fisher's personal, and you could be his personal effing assistant.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's low key bougie, and I think he needs a guy like me to keep his affairs in order.
You called Rob low key bougie. You automatically get max points in my book. I may just give you for all 5 questions without even answering, but I doubt he's still in here because he's in Pensacola. But it's Jobtown. It's time. You're en route and responding. The scene from Backdraft where he slaps that tape into that cassette deck. What song are you playing while you're en route?
Probably Above the Clouds by Gangstar.
Above the Clouds. We've never had Gangstar before. Sam can confirm. Is this a real song or is this a joke song?
It's real. Yeah.
Okay, Gangstar, I don't know if that's like Lonely Island, you know what I'm saying?
No, they're real. Yeah, they're
no offense to Gangstar. I'm gonna have to check this out and see. I'm not sure. I'll wait to see if the audience says Gangstar deserves max points. Waiting to see. See if anybody says anything. Number 3, cold weekend at the station. The checks are done. Training is done. You're in the day room, clicking through the TV. The food's in the crock pot. You've done everything. You're not neglecting any duties. There's no complacency involved. But what is the movie when you click on it? You finish the movie, no matter how many times you've seen it before, no matter what part of the movie. What is that movie for you?
Okay. Can I choose? Well, there's some rationale here. So it's a little bit seasonal. For us, it's Home Alone, but we don't watch Home Alone outside of season.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's legitimate.
Yeah. I feel like Backdraft is a given, so I feel like it counts, doesn't count.
Yeah.
Like nobody
does not need be said. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Like, is there anybody really like looking at Backdraft from the Firehouse? Like, come on, everyone's gonna finish it. You'll love it.
Burn them all.
Yeah, but the one movie that's like out there, no matter what, 365, I see it, is going to be The Warriors.
The Warriors come out and play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, that was there was quite a bit there, but I understand you. It was rationale. It wasn't
Yeah.
saying this, and this. You said rationale. But the movie is The Warriors. Max points for Warriors. There you go. Number 4 on the clock. It's you get 1 minute to answer. If you go over, you don't get points. If you talk afterwards about it, you don't get points. You get 1 minute to tell me who is your Mount Rushmore of the fire service, and go.
Oof. Shoop, Trestrail, Gary Lane, Jerry Zane, Larry Gain, Rob Fisher, John Quan.
You're at 5.
Boy, McWilliams can be in there too, I guess.
Well, you've got 6 on your Mount Rushmore now. And Mount Rushmore is 4.
4.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
that's it.
There you go. I mean, it's an impressive list. Shoop, Trestrel, Lane, Fisher, McWilliams. I think I missed a 6th one in there. Oh no, John Quan. Yeah, you had John Quan in there.
Yeah.
So there's your 6-man Mount Rushmore in 12 or 4 in 12 seconds. But number 5, heavy fire and searchable space. Would you rather be assigned to the nozzle or first in on VES? And I'd be surprised if I don't know the answer, but I'm gonna hear what you have to say.
Nozzle all day long.
Nozzle all day long. I would be surprised. And there's no wrong answer. There's no right answer. It's just it's the reason behind why you pick what you pick, which I think you spent the last hour and 20 minutes articulating very well why you would pick the nozzle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even then, like, let's call this VS situation like a, something on the 7th floor and I have to climb the aerial for.
Not your
I can't do that. Can't do that. I'll live up there.
That officially, with the answers to those questions, that officially puts scrap number 336 in the books. James Nisbet, thank you for being with us and sharing your evening with us. If someone wants to get a hold of you and get more info, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, social media. Yeah, it's probably the easiest way. I don't know if they're like, you can plaster my phone number here if you want. I don't know if there's a
That's
way
up to you.
that.
That's completely up to you. It can blow you up, or I mean, just depending on how much they, enjoyed what you had to say.
Yeah.
Maybe they hate boat beds. I don't know.
That's fine too. Yeah, probably. Yeah, let's just call it social media.
Yeah.
Name, my name, and then you can send me a message there. And yeah, I'm here. I'm open book, ready to answer questions here for anything anybody needs. So,
final question for you is guest suggestion. Who do you think needs to be on the scrap or come back on the scrap for another episode? Who would you like to see?
has Gary Lane been on the scrap?
He's been on back in the 40s, I want to say, but he has not. I don't think I've had him back on since. And he's hard to get on too. It's not like it was. I remember when I called him to ask him to come on, and I didn't know anything about Gary Lane other than a book that he might have been associated with, and that's how.
Yeah.
And he's like, the first thing he said was, "Why?" And I was like, but I understand now why he was asking that question.
Yeah, he's kind of more of a frame of mind. We're not even sure if he's a real person or not.
I get that.
John Quan.
That needs to happen without a doubt.
Yeah, you gotta get.
I don't know if he's still in the chat. I might actually book him while he's in the chat because I need to make that. I've been needing to. Yeah.
Or Nate Miller.
Nate Miller. Awesome. No, I love trying to expand that absolutely. So there we go. Thank you for that. Something new I'm doing here. I was talking about it when you crashed out, when you locked up earlier. Crashed out is totally different meaning nowadays. But featured fire department. If you want to be the featured fire department, reach out to me, firehousevigilance@gmail.com. Tell me why you want to be the featured fire department, because the whole purpose behind having the featured fire department at the end of the scrap is so that people can find each other and network and get answers. Like if you built a peer support program and you built it from the ground up and you got lots of resources you want to share with others, and you want to share those things that you discovered and the problems you faced, say, hey, we want to be the featured fire department. Let people know they can reach out to us for peer support. Or if you did a 2-year study on nozzles and hose and you want to share that data, same thing. Reach out. Let me know why. This week, first featured fire department is Orange Township Fire Department in Rome City, Indiana. If you're struggling with recruitment and retention, they are here for you. They are a combination organization aimed to support and provide insight on the do's and don'ts of what works for them in the recruit and retention that precedes the fire grounds and training environment. You can email Orange Township Fire Department at gmail.com to find out more, or phone their chief Lenders, 260-502-1535. So that is it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to put one of those out every scrap so that you can say, hey, I do want to know more about that. I'm going to call them. And then hopefully we can build a giant network of departments and we can cut out duplication of effort. I mean, I think it'll be a great thing. I really do. So please, please, please reach out if you have something to offer. House. On the Gmail, it is Orange Township FD at gmail.com. Orange Township FD at gmail.com. Sam was in my ear. I don't know if he made it where everybody could hear. There you go. Housekeeping. Go to patreon.com/thevigilantes. Become a vigilante. They're the coolest cats in the world. Amazing conversations in the Discord. And of course, part of being a vigilante is the after party where we're going to go roast James Nisbet. After this is over, he's going to show up. Or he's invited to show up. He may not show up, but we're going to roast him. And we're in the middle of a V50. The vigilantes, I could talk about them for the next 20 minutes, and that's not the point. Sam is posting the link for the after party, and that's enough jabbering from me. Coming up next week on the scrap, we have Zach King. I've been trying to get this one on the books for so long. Zach King, heck of a dude. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Followed by Groovy himself, Chad Groover, and then 3:39, Smoke Daddy, David Rhodes coming on. Followed by back to the Pacific Northwest, Phil Jose. So it's the next month is 2026 is kicked off to an amazing lineup. So that's it. James Nisbet, thank you for coming on, talking about systems-based engine operations, talking about the static bulk bed, talking about all things hose and water, and being colorblind, all while being colorblind, which is pretty amazing feat. So thank you for sharing your evening with us.
Thank you.
Audience, thanks for tuning in live each and every week. You know I love you. You guys make the scrap magical. You guys ask your beautiful questions and set the guest and me up for success, and I can never tell you thank you enough. Remember, mutts don't scrap. I hope the tones stay silent unless it is burning. This job will never be safe, so stay smart out there.